Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome, 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 welcome. Let's wait one more minute and we'll get started. We are so excited to have you here today. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. On behalf of the National Association for Bilingual Education, thank you for joining us for tonight's important conversation. Voices in Action, Voces en Acción, Defending and Strengthening Multilingual Education Programs. My name is Dr. Margarita Machado Casas, and I have the honor of serving as the president of the National Association for Bilingual Education. And we're here tonight because we're witnessing the closure of dual language and bilingual programs and programs for English language learners across the United States, and programs that service and that help multilingual learners across the country. What may appear to be an isolated decision in individual districts are, in fact, part of what we're witnessing in what I'm calling the popcorn effect or the popcorn approach. What we're witnessing is not a series of isolated incidents. It is not one school here and another school there. What we're seeing is the dangerous, and I'm going to say it again, the dangerous popcorn approach to dismantling bilingual education and multilingual education programs. One program pops up in North Carolina, another program pops up in New York, another program pops up in New Jersey, another program pops up in Texas. One closure at a time, one decision at a time, one community at a time. The danger of this popcorn approach is that each closure is treated as an individual event rather than what truly is, which is part of a growing national pattern. With 9 programs closing in North Carolina, 7 programs closing in New York, 4 in New Jersey, 3 in Texas that we know, and others across the country, we can no longer call these isolated decisions. We must recognize them for what they are, as systemic erosion of opportunities for our multilingual learners and their families. Every time a bilingual or dual language program closes, we lose more than a program. We lose access, we lose opportunity, we lose a pathway for biliteracy, academic excellence, cultural affirmation, and global competitiveness. We send a message to children and their families that their language are expandable rather than valuable. A popcorn approach to closing programs is designated to make us think the losses are small and disconnected. But when we step back, we see the truth. This is not popcorn. This is a wildfire. And if we do not act collectively right now, it will continue to spread from district to district, state to state, and child to child. These closures are not just administrative decisions. They affect children, they affect families, they affect our identities, our cultures, and our entire communities. We know the research is clear. Dual language, bilingual programming that support our English language learners, academic achievement, their biliteracy, the cognitive development, the cultural understanding, and long-term opportunities for all students are critical. These programs are not optional, they're essential. And yet, despite decades of this evidence, advocacy, and community investment, many communities are now being forced to defend programs that took years and sometimes generations to build. What is happening nationally is not acceptable. And this is why this webinar tonight matters. Tonight, you're going to hear from leaders, educators, advocates, and students who are directly experiencing these realities on the ground. They will speak about what is happening in their states and their communities, the impact these closures are having, and most importantly, what communities can do when these situations arise. This work requires local action and national solidarity. At NABE, we want communities to know that they're not alone. We stand with educators, with families, with students, and with advocates who continue to fight to protect multilingual learners and bilingual education programs across the United States. And today we have other organizations here. We have AFT, we have IDRA, also standing in solidarity with all of us. Because this moment requires action, requires organizing, requires courage, and it requires every one of us. And now it is my great honor to introduce today's moderator, someone who has dedicated her entire career to educational equity, advocacy, and multilingual communities, Montserrat Garibay, who just won in Texas, District 49, and also who ran the OELA office, the office that has been shut down as well in the U.S. Department of Education. Montserrat, thank you so much for being here with us and guiding us through tonight's conversation. Go ahead, Monse.
Muchas gracias. Buenas tardes. Gracias, Presidenta, Dr. Margarita Machado, and thank you so much for NABE for creating this very important space. So tonight we bring together voices from across the country, researchers, educators, advocates, organizational leaders, and students who are witnessing firsthand the impact of school and program closures on multilingual communities. And as Dr. Machado shared, our goal tonight is not only to discuss these challenges that we're facing, but also to share strategies, resources, and very concrete actions that communities can take to advocate for multilingual learners to protect our multilingual education programs. So I will now introduce our panelists as we begin tonight's conversation. First and foremost, we have our first speaker, Dr. Maria Cody. She's a Goodnight Distinguished Professor in Educational Equity and a Professor of Multilingual Education in North Carolina State University. Her work focuses on multilingual learners, rural dual language immersion programs, and educational equity. She has worked extensively with educators, multilingual families, and national organizations supporting language rights and educational access. Let's give a shout out to Doctora Maria Cody. Maria?
Thank you. Muchas gracias. Buenas noches a todos. Good evening to everybody. It's such a pleasure to see you and to be here. And mostly I'm energized by the community that we're creating, that NABE is creating nationally, to stand in solidarity with other organizations to support bilingual and dual language immersion programs. My part tonight is really to introduce to you the next speaker at this moment, right? And it's someone whom I've gotten to know in the context of Harnett County Public Schools. We'll be talking a little bit more about that in particular. I work particularly in rural communities, and so rural communities are maybe disproportionately being affected by some of the closures, but we will be talking a little bit about it. So I have the opportunity now to present and introduce to you Amanda Luna. Now, Amanda is a longtime resident of Harnett County, which is located not far from Raleigh, North Carolina. That's Wake County Schools, but in a rural school district. She is a resident and a parent advocate who chose to raise her multicultural family in the area, in Harnett County, because of its dual language immersion programs. Like other families in that area, she made that conscious choice. She's the parent of two emerging bilingual children enrolled in DLI and has been an active voice in advocating for the continuation of the programs following their announced closure in 9 county schools. Okay, we'll see what happens. Amanda believes bilingual education is essential and is committed to ensuring that children have opportunities to develop and maintain both English and Spanish in their schools and communities. And I'll give it back to Montserrat.
Muchas gracias, Dr. Maria Cody. Next, we have Alondra Garcia. She's the president of the Wisconsin Association for Bilingual Education. She's a bilingual educator and an advocate for immigrant and multilingual communities. As both a former DACA recipient and a bilingual teacher in Milwaukee Public Schools, she brings life experience, advocacy, and a deep community leadership for this work. Next, we have Milagros Armenta. We will hear from her. She's a student advocate connected with the Wisconsin Association for Bilingual Education, who recently wrote a powerful letter addressing the impact of these closures and what this is having on students, families, and communities. Next, we will hear from Dr. Lisdelia Piñon. She's an education associate at IDRA, a national advocate for bilingual education, disability rights, family engagement, and educational equity. And Dr. Piñon works extensively with multilingual learners and families and will provide practical guidance on advocacy strategies and action steps communities that they can take locally. Next, we will have the wonderful Giselle Lundi Ponce. Giselle has been working in the field from pre-K to 12 education policy, legislation, and advocacy over 3 decades. And in her current role in the American Federation of Teachers, she manages the educational rights and social justice initiatives and the policy team that leads the AFT's policy and professional development on English learners, Native American students, early childhood education, and teacher evaluation. She's also at the AFT Center of School Improvement Leadership Institute. All right. So we are going to, I know that we have a lot to cover, and we're going to start with Dr. Maria Cody, who will be sharing what has been happening in North Carolina, particularly in Harnett County and the surrounding communities. Go ahead, Dr.
Thank
Maria.
you. Thank you so much, Montserrat. Okay. Well, again, good evening to everybody. Happy to share what's going on, and hopefully we can share some ideas of ways of advocating. I just want to start by saying thank you to NABE for strong advocacy and the essential nature of us being together tonight. I work in NABE on the executive board as the Eastern Region representative. So I'm really speaking from working in Florida for 20 years in rural school districts, and I've been almost 5 years now in North Carolina. And one of my partner school districts for research and lots of professional development reasons has been Harnett County. So for almost 5 years, I have worked very closely with educators in this particular school district. Very interesting, because as a rural school district, it's not easy to not only start a dual language immersion program, but to maintain a dual language immersion program. When we add things on, like very state particular issues around DLI, for example, like in North Carolina, we do not have a single teacher preparation program to prepare educators in the state of North Carolina for dual language immersion. Instead, for the past 20 years, the state has relied on third-party providers to hire international J1 sponsored teachers. Let me just say, I'm not saying for or against this particular, of course, I believe in strong and highly prepared dual language teachers. Please don't get me wrong. But what this has done is created a very fractured system for dual language immersion programs. And now, and I want to get to a big picture, that now that we're seeing, like like Margarita is saying, popcorn effect of this happening, any kind of situation like this where there's a potential fracture in a system, or let me say dual language programs have not been integrated structurally into how a school district is operating, makes them vulnerable. We are vulnerable. We are seeing this in Harnett County, and I want to just put out here to everybody that that we need to know where districts are being vulnerable and things that they are facing. So let me just get into it a little bit more. I work primarily in rural communities, as I mentioned. We heard and learned about the closure of 7 programs, initially 7 dual language programs, and we were being told very suddenly on a webinar, I'm sorry, on a school district meeting, that there was going to be a school dual language immersion consolidation. This happened very quickly, and what caught our attention in this particular school board meeting, it was one that we saw online. We were not in attendance. This is going on in early March. There was one comment for about 60 seconds made about school consolidation. And the comment that came after that was that the programs, the dual language programs, were having there were too many natives in the dual language programs. There were too many natives. And that was sort of the rationale, the initial rationale for this particular district to say there are too many natives and we're going to go into consolidation. Okay, let me just point out 2 things that are happening here. One, who are the natives that we're talking about? We're talking about bilingual children who grow up in bilingual homes, children whose parents might be bilingual or monolingual, particularly Spanish speakers in the home, children who speak many other languages. But we're talking about referring to a group of children as natives as a highly racist comment. Let me just be very clear about this. This kind of language is just not acceptable, right? But this was the way that children participating in programs were framed by the school district. The second thing I want to talk about is this way that the rationale has played out a little bit, calling this initially consolidation. Now, we hear a lot. I work in rural communities. I get the idea of consolidation. We've been here. This is part of somehow rural schools attending to ways to restructure, to save money. You know, they'll often create a new building and put middle school and high schools together and so on. There's there's all kinds of school consolidation. What we are not, this is not, however, consolidation. What happened in Harnett County, and Amanda will say more, was a comment at a school board and immediately followed by letters to parents who were told that they had about 72 hours to make a decision on keeping their child in the dual in the same program, in the same school, physical school where they're located, or have to transport their child to a dual language immersion program that in a rural district is 30 miles in one direction, 30 miles back the other way, twice a day, no transportation provided. This is not consolidation. Let me be clear. This is abrupt closure because there's no family in a rural school district that can get up in the morning and drive their children 30 miles one way, 30 miles back. These are families that are working in Harnett County. These are families haciendo cosecha. These are families picking sweet potatoes that are working in construction industries, that are working in landscaping industries, tobacco industries, and all kinds of farming communities. This is not consolidation. This is abrupt closure. So I want to be really clear with the language that we're hearing is accurately reflecting what is actually happening. So let's just call it what it is. This is abrupt closure. And Amanda will talk more about what happened with families and their advocating on this. But let me just say one or two little things because I know I only have a few minutes. The big picture here, what's going on. We're hearing this consolidation as a rationale. Then we heard that the data from students in the dual language program was bad. Now, let me say that the data that we were provided eventually after asking was nothing other than third grade reading test scores in English only. This is not the kind of data, as we all, these are not the kind of data that show program evaluation or program effectiveness at the third grade level. So here we have a district, again, making a decision saying that the data aren't good. First, we say there's consolidation. Then we say that then we hear that that the data don't show that students are doing well. Then we hear there are too many natives in the programs. So all of these are non-rationales for what's actually happening here. I want to just say, and I have data from this school, so I want to say that those data for what's actually happened with those schools. I can say in one particular school that the third grade students actually, the students in the DLI program have less than 12% of those students are ever referred to the office for behavior issues. They outperform monolingual children in the upper grades, upper elementary grades, and those data stay consistent. So these other things are not true rationales. But one thing that's troubling me, maybe my point that I want to make is that I think we are in a time here when we have just over a year have had English declared as an official language in the United States. And I think that in some spaces, this is being misinterpreted to English only. Let me just say, English, this is not what we have here. There are many, many countries in the world that have official languages. The Republic of Ireland has 2. South Africa has 12. Many countries have many official languages, but that does not mean they only do things, or we are only operating, for instance, in the United States, in English only. And that by extension does not mean that we should only be educating through English only. Okay, these are not rationales. In fact, the opposite, when we know as scholars, the opposite's going to happen, right? The more that we close these programs and we have multilingual learner students in these programs, we know that the achievement of students is going to fall in the long period of time. So I just wanted to point out that these are some of the things that we're hearing in Harnett County. I think there's been a bit of retaliation. The district then came, is kind of digging in their heels, and I know Amanda will talk more about this, but really they then suddenly decided that instead of 7 closures, they were going to move to 9. So this is what we're facing right now. Families who moved into the area for these programs that were asked to commit 5 to 7 years to the programs are not going to reap the benefit of the program. This is not phase out. This is not consolidation. This is not low student achievement based on any kind of effectiveness data. It's definitely not a program evaluation where we would use all kinds of data to show the effectiveness of an entire program. This is something else happening, and I think we all have a better sense of what that is. So I'm going to just wrap up here so that we can continue on with the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Would you like to go ahead and also introduce Amanda?
Yes, so thank you. Yes, so I introduced Amanda a little briefly before, but Amanda has been at the forefront with, let me say, in Harnett County, many families that are now going to many of the school board meetings regularly. And I want to say, I'm just sitting here looking honestly right now at my phone because the reason some of the families from Harnett County could not be here right now is because as we speak, there is a school board meeting being held in Harnett County, and Amanda graciously agreed not to go to that with the other families, but to come here tonight to tell you all about what's going on in Harnett County. So I'll let Amanda take it away.
Hi. And I'm going to piggyback off of a lot of what Maria said because a lot of what she said was the intro. I have notes. Yes, very much so. They're calling this a consolidation, which I don't believe is effective. It has been proven time and again that consolidations are not effective, that they don't work. And we were given till the end of the school year, pretty much less than a month to decide if we were going to keep our kids local or if we were going to send them to either Dunn Elementary or Highland Elementary, which from my district, which is District 4, is 35 to 45 minutes away. So that left me very, very little time to arrange how I was going to do that. So since I had nothing solidified, I really had only the choice to keep them local because I can't commit to something if I don't have a definite commitment, which that is a very, very far commute for my family. And with the current political climate, which I think Maria was trying to say, I think that's being fully taken advantage of right now. Because when I posted the petition, the change.org petition that the parents had organized to try and get some change and awareness of the program, I posted that on the Harnett County page and was met with a lot of vitriol over it. And a lot of people don't even know what the program is. They're treating it as if an ESL program, which it's not. It's completely different. It's taught the same curriculum in 2.5 days. The kids, yes, at first might falter a little bit because they're learning in 2 languages, but that is announced and understood when you sign on for the program. So that's not anything new. The parents are told, yes, they might flounder a little bit at first because they're learning in 2 languages, but by 4th grade, my daughter just passed both of her EOGs. She improved 117% over the last 2 years, and she's thriving in school. There's nothing, no concrete evidence that she's falling behind in anything. My kindergartner just started this year and outperformed on all of her assessments. She's above average on everything, and she has already come home being able to speak sentences in both languages, full sentences. She's able to read in both languages, and that is just doing the program for 1 year in kindergarten. So I can attest that this program does work. It's very effective, and the children love it. They're little tiny humans that create communities of love and support, and the ones that are more comfortable with one language will help with that language. The ones that are more comfortable with English will help with English. They never ridicule each other. They never make each other feel insecure or bad about using their language. And I think that's one of the most important things that comes from dual immersion is that it's showing them that it's okay to use your language and that it's supported and it's valued. The parents have been working really hard with, thank you so much for your organization and other organizations and other means such as filing grievances with the board and making sure that those voices are being heard. But the board really hasn't responded in any way. The only thing that they respond with is that they are not obligated to keep the program going, which I think is very unfair to the parents because it was very known that this was a hush decision and that parents were not to get involved before this decision was made. So we are now forced to try and file grievances, work with organizations, and send petitions out there when the decision has already been made for us. So I don't really think that's fair of the parents. We feel like they've violated our rights as parents to have a say in our kids' education. You know, when you sign on for the program, they ask you, are you prepared to commit to this for the next 5 to 6 years? And we say, absolutely, we are committed to this. And they are now forcing us to completely switch our children's educational goals, which I think that's a huge violation of parental rights. Like, why do you get to make that decision for us? A lot of people utilize public education. We don't want to send our kids to private schools, or a lot of people can't afford it. So why are you stripping opportunity away from these kids when they have opportunity to get the seal of biliteracy, because North Carolina does offer that? You can take tests to study abroad proving that you know the language, which probably makes it so much easier to get a scholarship for another university or to study abroad. These are opportunities from public school that can be given to these kids, and they're stripping that away from them and framing it as, oh, this is a pull on the taxpayer, which is a complete myth. It's not. It doesn't cost the school district any more money to run this program. They're just taking advantage, like I said, of the political climate right now, and they're hoping that more people will get on board with getting rid of the program. And if it was a true phase out, they would have allowed the students that are currently enrolled to finish, which I think is another thing that a lot of people are overlooking the unfairness of, because my daughter started this year in kindergarten, and now this opportunity is getting stripped away from her, because it's either I go out of my way for 2 hours of travel time back and forth to the school every day to ensure that she can continue, or keep her local and she's not going to continue the program because that's the decision the board made for us, which I don't find fair. I think that you should have let the students that were enrolled and were committed to the program finish at their local schools. And another thing that I really wanted to bring up, I'm trying to speak coherently. I had notes. Is that the district that my schools are in, I can say my kids' schools, they're Andrew Elementary School and North Harnett Primary School, which are both Harnett County schools, and they're in District 4. So District 4 schools seem to be conveniently left out of a lot of the data that I've been seeing. They've been focusing quite a bit on Dunn, on like other central Harnett schools, which I find really funny, because the data from my schools, or my children's schools, consistently shows how DLI and the dual students outperform the other students. So I find it a little funny that when we're asked, we're given data, that the schools that have proven that dual is effective are conveniently left out of those spreadsheets. And if they are, like, if that's the case, then why are they getting phased out? Because they shouldn't be, especially since they are the farthest from the schools that are consolidating the program. And I know I had 5 minutes to speak, but I also wanted to address that board members are elected, and some of the board members in our county have been very vocal on social media about being against the program. And I think that is very irresponsible. I think if you're going to close the program and stand by that decision, then don't spread false information to back up your decision. When you sign your kids up for this program, you are to check on a sheet what language is dominant at home. They're very aware of what languages are dominant at home. So if you're enrolling kids in this program and you are aware that their dominant language at home is Spanish, then why are you turning around and blaming the parents then and saying that these are mostly native speakers, in your words? Because I don't understand that. If you're aware that most of the language that's spoken at home is Spanish, and you're still enrolling these children in dual language, that's on the school. That's not on the parents. So we should not be the ones suffering for that. And I don't think that that's true. I step into my schools, and I can tell you firsthand that my kids' classrooms in both of their schools, North Harnett and Andrew, have a 50-50 split of Spanish speakers and mostly English speakers. And I have seen that since my daughter's been enrolled since kindergarten. Now she's going into 5th grade, and I can tell you it has been an even split for the last 4 years that she's been in the program. I don't see what they're talking about at my schools. And this is just from my parents' perspective. But I will end my comments with a quote from the Harnett County School page and their mission statement. which is Harnett County Schools will be the model for development of thriving learners who are globally competitive and highly productive. And I think stripping this opportunity away from them is contradicting their own mission statement.
Amanda, thank you so much. We really appreciate your words, and you bring the importance of making sure that we have accountability and transparency, and how as parents and as a community you can really do that. And I love your example and your questions, and the importance of parents being at the table asking those questions. Thank you so much, and thank you, Dr. Cody, also for your tireless advocacy and your leadership in North Carolina. Okay, next we move to the state of Wisconsin, where Alondra Garcia, the president of the Wisconsin Association for Bilingual Education, has helped lead efforts to protect multilingual education programming for students and families. Go ahead, Alondra.
Muchas gracias, NABE, for giving me the opportunity to share about the advocacy that the Wisconsin Association for Bilingual Education has been doing to support our students and families, advocacy efforts to save their dual language programs in the respective districts. I'm the president of WIABE, and one of our school districts, Delavan Darien, was facing a proposal brought up by the administration to the board to reduce the DLI program. Once word came out, staff, students, and families mobilized to be present at the April 22nd special board meeting, where over more than 300 people attended, including students, families, and staff from both the dual language and monolingual programs. Over 40 people testified and advocated to protect the DLI program. The proposal was prepared by administrators who had no direct experience with dual language whatsoever. It was prepared without consulting DL experts or staff. The presentation showed inexperience, inaccuracies, and a lack of understanding of dual language. The Delavan Darien School District is the only district in Walworth County that offers a Spanish-English dual language education program, serving ELs who make up 30% of the district's student population. We urge them to follow state laws that require school districts to offer bilingual programs if they have 10 or more ELs in K to 3rd and 20 or more ELs in grades 4 to 12 from the same language group in specific grade groupings. These programs must provide instruction in both English and the student's native language, requiring licensed bilingual teachers. Furthermore, we emphasize that the district must ensure that the appropriate civil rights mandates regarding ELs, as well as other academic programming needed to make dual language successful, be preserved. As WIABE, we recommended that the school board create and ensure that a dual language advisory committee is in place to advise the school board on issues related to dual language education, school program consolidation as mandated by the Wisconsin State Legislature, and have the dual language advisory committee support with the development of a grow your own program for bilingual teachers. After public testimony was given, the board still move forward to vote on whether to reduce the dual language program at the May 11 regular board meeting. You could go to the next slide, please. The family, students, and staff were not going to give up, and they showed up at the regular board meeting as well. On behalf of WIABE, I give testimony. I really appreciated the informational presentation about the DLI program presented to the school board by the dual language program coordinator, Irma Nixon, and the coordinator of EL, Cindy Brown. Irma was the teacher because she also teaches on top of being the dual language program coordinator, who got in contact with WIABE during our conference, and we were able to put up the petition up on our conference, and a lot of educators signed on and shared it with others about what was happening in her district and was essential in mobilizing everyone. I found the presentation very necessary since it was evident that many board members were not educated in depth of what the DLI program, the district they represent, is all about. After the community spoke out, it was evident that the school board was pressured, and in the end, they voted to keep the DLI program intact without changing anything. You can change the slide, please. It was a huge win for the Delavan Darien community, a victory worth celebrating. They are a prime example of what it means to show up for your students, staff, and families. Okay, and then the next slide, please. Now, with everything that is happening across the nation in Wisconsin and Delavan Darien, like I just spoke about, it was evident that it would soon hit home. I'm a second grade bilingual teacher in the Milwaukee Public Schools District, and we are facing very serious changes and challenges that will be detrimental to our bilingual program. WIABE and NPS have been meeting on a monthly basis to discuss the future of bilingual education in our district. The establishment of bilingual education in Milwaukee and furthermore in NPS was a long battle that was led by many pioneers of bilingual education since the 1970s. The expansion began in 1974 and has been present since then. NPS board members championed bilingual education and created the bilingual multicultural department separate from the curriculum and instruction department. Since these meetings began with a lot of back and forth dialogue, it's evident that there is no clear vision and the abrupt changes are causing more harm than good. There will be a very important meeting happening this Wednesday for all to attend and testify on how the district has moved forward with many changes. People will have the opportunity to share their concerns in regards to proposed cuts and changes to the Department of Multilingual and Multicultural Education, the bilingual staffing and programming restructuring, biliteracy implementation across the district, professional development and coaching for bilingual and ESL staff, and long-term strategic planning that involves educators, families, and community voices. With that being said, this fight is not over. We will continue to see districts across Wisconsin and across the nation who will try to reduce or completely eliminate DLI, bilingual, and multilingual programs. But will be met by advocates like ourselves in this space who will defend our community with truth and resilience. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Alondra. Your work is a powerful example of how our communities can really organize collectively to defend multilingual education. I appreciate you. Okay, now I would like to introduce to you Milagros Armenta. Adelante, Milagros.
Hola, buenos días. Sorry, I'm a bit sick, so uh, I'm gonna kick some of the positive sides of it because I feel like we are doing some negative things, but I feel like it could also be positive. So here in Delavan, what we did was have our whole community together. Um, Students put out the stuff on social media, and it was shared between among everyone, so like Facebook, Instagram, and everything. I feel like that having a good community is most important on having like a strong both with dual language program. Um, when concerns about like our program being closed came like to me, I was very concerned because this program has been with me for 12 years already. So it's been with me for like my whole life. And since English is my second language, I was really concerned that the younger generations would not get the same opportunities that I got. So I fought among teachers, parents, students, um, and community members to keep this program going. It took a while, but we finally got a victory. I was really proud. I sadly couldn't be at that school board meeting where they had the decision. Um, Being part of the dual language program is very powerful. Delavan finally has the CO by literacy, so I'm able to graduate with my CO by literacy. We also got that in hand. That's I could say I'm like the leader of the dual language program, because I handle most of the meetings. I do um mostly everything to keep it going, to it's shown around the school, and so like the mono kids also see how it's on and off, and how like it could also be shown through them and not just like leave it behind. The support of the dual language program has highlighted the values that make our community strong: collaboration, respect, diversity, and opportunity. It has brought together people from different backgrounds who all recognize the importance of bilingual education and the opportunities it creates for students. This has strengthened relationships between families, schools, and community members. It has encouraged conversations about how we can continue improving the program and ensure its success for future generations. I feel like no matter what happens, I am proud of how our community responded. Uh, this is something I dedicated myself my whole life to, and to see how our community has unified and shown, um, demonstrated how much people care about education and about giving students the best possible opportunities. That is something worth celebrating. The dual language program has always been about bringing people together through language and culture and identity. Seeing our community come together and support it has been one of the best examples of this action. I just wanted to say I was very proud that our school did it. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Milagros. Your voice reminds us that students are not only impacted by these decisions, they are also leaders in this movement. So I applaud your courage and your words of wisdom. Now I would like to introduce to you Dr. Lisdelia Piñon. She's the Education Associate at IDRA and a national advocate for bilingual education, disability rights, family engagement, and educational equity. Adelante, Dr. Piñon.
Hola, gracias, Monse. Buenas tardes, familias, colegas, and friends. Thank you, Monse, and thank you for NAVE for creating this space. My name is Dr. Liz Piñon, and I come into this conversation as an advocate. I'm a former Chicago Public School bilingual student, as a bilingual and ESL teacher in both Illinois and Texas, and more importantly, as a mother of emergent bilingual kiddos. At IDRA, our work is rooted in simple but powerful belief that our emergent bilingual students have the right to excellent schools that help them master English while also developing and honoring their home language, cultures, and identity. Strong programs don't happen by accident. They require funding, they require well-prepared educators, they require accountability, and they require communities willing to speak up when opportunities are threatened, like we've heard this evening. This issue is so deeply personal to me. I grew up in one of Chicago's early dual language programs from pre-K to 8th grade, and these experiences shaped who I am. They taught me the power of bilingualism, that it's not a barrier to overcome, it's a gift, an asset, and a strength. And later when I became a bilingual teacher, right? And today, as a mother of 4 children who are emergent bilinguals and have disabilities, I know what it feels like to sit on the family side of the table and ask whether the system's truly seeing the whole child. So I know what it means to be, and it feels like when our families are treated as an afterthought instead of a partner. That is why I want to say clearly tonight that when bilingual and dual language programs are threatened, this isn't simply a program issue. This is a rights issue, and it's a trust issue. And you can go to the next slide, right? And for many children, it's also a special ed issue. Too often, our bilingual ed and our special ed children are treated as separate conversation, but as many of our children, they live in that intersection of both. Students can be multilingual and use devices. Students can receive special ed and thrive in bilingual programs. These identities are not in conflict. It's who our kids are. That's why families can't accept vague languages like restructuring, realignment, or we're phasing out without standing up and asking some hard questions. Show us the data. Show us the equity analysts. Show us the impact on our students with IEPs. Show us how our students are going to learn English. How are they going to maintain their language? Show us how interpretation and translation will be provided. Show us the transition plan for every child who has promised our bilingual pathways. Because moving our students is not the same as just providing access. And I did include a one-pager that you'll hopefully see soon. Because moving our students is not the same as providing access. And changing a program map is not the same as protecting our children's rights. They have rights. The standard should never be about convenience for the adults. The standard should be meaningful access for our kids. And when these situations arise, I tell familias, oigan claro, ask for proof, document everything, and organize family. No acepten promesas. Ask for the evidence. Keep the emails, keep the meeting notes, keep the presentations, document everything. And then organize. Create that WhatsApp group. Build the phone tree. Share information. Show up together, juntos. Because one parent can be ignored. But when a community of informed parents becomes a movement, and because I never want families to leave a conversation wondering, what do I do next? Here is this one-pager guide that I'll share with you today about protecting our bilingual and special ed rights. It includes 10 immediate actions that families can do when a district talks about closing, consolidating, because advocacy is more powerful when it moves from emotion to action. The goal is not simply to be upset. The goal is to be organized, the goal is to be informed, and the goal is to be ready. Families are not powerless. IDRA has an education cafe model you're welcome to see. You can ask questions, request records, organize testimonies. We just did this in Fort Worth ISD. Families can demand meetings in their home language. You can insist that bilingual and ed programs stop working in silos. So before I close, I just want to remind everyone listening tonight. The bilingual programs we have today were not gifts. They were fought hard, they were defended, and they were built by families, communities who refused to be silenced. So when they tell you there's nothing you can do, remember that history. My mom had me in picket lines when I was a little girl fighting for bilingual families. Remember that every major victory in bilingual had happened because families organized, communities spoke up, people showed up. Our children are not budget lines. Our children are not political talking points. Our children are not problems to solve. Son los maestros, las enfermeras, future engineers, our future leaders, y merecen escuelas que vean sus fortalezas, no solamente sus desafíos. So I leave you with this. Pregunten, documenten, organízase, levanten la voz. Ask questions, document, organize, raise your voice. No decisions about our children should ever be made without our families. Sí se puede. Thank you.
Wow. Muchas gracias, Dr. Piñón. I love hearing you because that is the spirit that we need more than ever. And as I was hearing you, I remember Dolores Huerta's famous quote, right? That every moment is an organizing opportunity, and that every person is a potential activist, and that every minute is a chance to change the world. And your testimony today tells us that we have the power because we have our children are in our schools and we are communities. So when we organize together, we can be powerful so much. So I'm so grateful for your words. Muchísimas gracias. Okay, next we have my good friend Giselle, who will be sharing information as well about the wonderful work that the American Federation of Teachers is doing, and she will share her expertise and her recommendations as well. Muchas gracias. Adelante, Giselle.
Muchas gracias, Monse, and thank you to everybody here today. I don't know that I can add very much after all the compelling testimonies. Oh my goodness. Talk about, mujeres con poder, right here, right now. And this is how revolutions start. At the American Federation of Teachers, we, at the national level, we are here to raise the alarm at the national level. So that means, making this issue front and center and visible to the congressional delegations on Capitol Hill, to talk to other, national allies in the fight, to push this issue forward, and give it, the attention it deserves. So, this happens through, lots of lobbying and advocacy on Capitol Hill. This happens through a lot of advocacy and lobbying at the state level and at the local level. We don't have as much control at the local level. That's mostly left up to our local unions, but many, many, many of them will be allies in this fight. So you have already heard how to make your voice heard, everywhere from, signing petitions to, being front and center and loud. Let's get loud at those school board meetings, requesting, school district meetings, with the people in charge and insisting, time and time again, don't let them tell you no. You just keep insisting to meet with the superintendent. And you have to, I mean, you may not be able to at first, but you start out with initial meetings and then follow up, follow up, follow up. Social media, it's so huge now. And who better than Monse right here to tell you how to run an effective campaign. She just won, her victory in Texas, and running that kind of a political campaign is not that much different from running an issues advocacy campaign. So you have to be present. You have to talk to people. You have to reach across the aisle and talk to allies whom you may not have thought of as people who think like you do, but who can come around and share common values. And to us at the American Federation of Teachers, a common value is the value of public education. They are the cornerstone of our democracy. They are where we are forming the future of this country. And at the 250th anniversary, this is more important than ever to make our voices heard so that the next 250 years, show us, with power, with, just more say, more voice, more visibility. We're also, just a big fan of outdoor actions. So if you hold a rally, hold it, with, if you can get elected officials to come to your rallies, other allies, editorials, if you still have local newspapers, those can be powerful too. Local TV, local radio, getting that word out and making sure that in your state you have stories like the ones we heard from Amanda, from Alondra, from Milagros. The parents, the educators, and the students on the ground will illustrate that story of what's happening, why this is valuable, and why we need to, to clamor for this. I know we're running short on time. I just want to take you back in time to 2009. There we featured a film at our Teach conference called Speaking in Tongues, which was a story of 4 bilingual programs in San Francisco. And so you had children, you had African American children in a Chinese immersion program. You had white children learning in a Russian immersion program. And the filmmakers were just so prescient and so powerful in their message. And I believe that you can see the documentary on YouTube. It's called Speaking in Tongues, and it was released in 2009. So thank you. And Montse.
Thank you.
Yes, I will now would like to invite Dr. Margarita Machado Casas to offer closing remarks.
Yes, and just real quick, before I want to share a great document from the National Association of English Learner Program Administrators, NAELPA. They have a wonderful different documents that give you and provide you data and their talking points to discuss why we need to support multilingual learners to state policy, but also school community and community leaders. Just put it in the chat. I'm a big believer of sharing is caring. And the more that we share the resources that have been shared in this important webinar, please share them. I think more than ever, yes, we need to mobilize, but we also need data, and we need to make sure that we're sharing this information with our community. But next, we have Dr. Margarita Machado to close us out. Thank you, Margarita.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you to each one of the speakers tonight. I think, as I was listening to everybody, I'm really reminded that something very deep, which is that these programs matter because our students and our children and our community matter. And then multilingual education is not just about language instruction. It's about identity. It's about belonging. It's about opportunity. It's about dignity. And what we're witnessing, these closures and these attacks on multilingual education programs across the country, we're witnessing something very powerful. We're witnessing community organizing, the power of holding each other's hand and not letting go of each other's hand, the power of students speaking up. There's the powers of family advocating, of educators refusing to stay silent. This is not the moment to step back. This is the moment to act. And I think that every one of the people that were here today were an example of that. And whether you're a teacher or a student or a parent or an administrator, all of us have a role in this, and we must continue to show up at school board meetings. We must continue to organize locally. We must continue to support one another at the national level. Show us. Remember, like Liz says, show us, right? Ask for proof. Moving our students is not the same as providing access. I love that you said that, Liz. Show up together. Let's hold each other's hand and not let go. We must continue reminding this country that multilingualism is an asset, not a problem to solve. And at the National Association for Bilingual Education, we remain committed to standing alongside you across the United States in defending and strengthening multilingual education and bilingual education, because our students deserve the schools where their languages, their cultures, and our identities are recognized as strengths. I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for your advocacy, and thank you for continuing this work in the communities. We also want to invite you. We're going to have an advocacy day in Washington, D.C., focus only on English language learners, bilingual learners, and dual language programming. And we're doing it together with TESOL. So NABE and TESOL are coming together for the advocacy days in Washington, D.C., June 23rd to the 25th. Please come, please join us as we continue advocating for English language learners and multilingual learners nationwide. We're taking this all the way to the Hill. We're not going to stay quiet. We're going to continue to fight for this. We have to raise the alarm, like Giselle said. Let's become a movement, right? We have the power. Like Liz said, no nos soltemos las manos, juntos podemos. Muchísimas gracias y nos vemos pronto.
Bravo, doctora Machado Casas. Thank you, everyone.
Gracias a todos. Muchas gracias. Buenas noches.
Thank you. What a powerful, powerful afternoon.
Muchísimas gracias. This is going to be available on YouTube and you can share with everybody, okay? Bendiciones y tenemos que seguir agarrándonos las manos. Muchísimas gracias a todos por todo lo que han hecho.
Seguimos la lucha, doctora.
Así seguimos,
Thank you,
así es.
Amanda.
Bendiciones a
Ciao.
todos. Muchas gracias. Bye bye.
Bravo, Monse.
Adiós. Bye.
Yay.
Woohoo, District 49. Bye.